The Giants, somehow, some way, at 5-10, have a realistic opportunity to win the division and go to the postseason still as we sit here this morning. Good morning, Jerry. Hope you had a great Christmas. How are you?
Jay, what is up? Yeah, it was all good. And here we are in the middle of another holiday week and a lot of football to discuss. Yeah, 5-10, not bad. It's a good thing they're in the NFC East this year.
Yeah, I am of the belief that you take this and you run with it as a fan. Because there are people that I've seen a lot of this where, nobody deserves to be in the playoffs. This is an absolute joke. Whatever team wins that division is going to be smoked. So you're one of those guys.
I am, yeah.
But don't you enjoy it just for the hell of it? Because especially this year, all right, I knew the Vikings were terrible. I'm not going to make this about them, but I'm just talking from a fan perspective. I knew they were terrible. But I thought that there was a chance that they could sneak into the playoffs just to give me something else to pay attention to as we go into January, which could be a rough month for New York sports. I mean, we got basketball back, and we'll get into that later. And the Nets, obviously, 2 out of the 3 games outside of last night look like a team that's going to go to the finals. But that's for another time in the show. But it just gives you something else. I never thought that the Vikings were going to win a championship, but I was like, sneak into the playoffs, give me a playoff game, then I got something. So if you're a Giant fan, an Eagle fan, a Washington football fan, a Cowboy fan, at least you'll have something. You host a playoff game. You give yourself a reason to believe that you can win that game. And it's just something else to be excited about in this year where there's so little to be excited about.
You're not wrong. You're absolutely right. I'm just outside looking in. I'm always the type that believes if you're not a 500 team, you don't belong in the playoffs.
Yeah.
That said, if you're the Giants and you can get into the postseason, I do think it matters because I think it's valuable learning experience, if you will. It doesn't mean that you're going to make a run at the Super Bowl next year just because you were in the playoffs this year. But I think for a young team like they are in a lot of spots, I think it's good to go through it and see what it's like and what it feels like. Now, it's a little different this year because you're going to be in stadiums with no crowd and the feel is different. But it's still the playoffs, and it is a winner-go-home type of mentality, which is what they're going to have this Sunday afternoon against the Cowboys anyhow. And if they do win, then they got to wait around until 11 o'clock at night to find out what Washington does. But, yes, if you can make it, go make it. I don't love it, but at the end of the day, the rules are the rules, and if you win your division, not only do you get in, you get a home playoff game.
Sure.
On top of it.
Yeah, and that's something that this year doesn't mean as much, but it still is something that is amazing that a team with a terrible record can have a home playoff game like that. But and no, I wouldn't expect the Giants or the Cowboys or whoever makes it in to win that game, but I mean, it's not as if it's impossible.
It's not.
It really isn't. So, I mean, I would not be tossing this away. I would not be throwing my hands up in the air saying that this is ridiculous. I would be trying to squeeze out every morsel of fun in this because, oh, by the way, let's just add to the fact that the Giants the last couple of seasons have been so bad. I mean, their season has been over by week 8. So now you have a shot. You can't poo-poo it. Now, the problem, though, is that the Giants are on a losing streak. So if you had gotten into the postseason, and if they win their last game against Dallas, which they're going to have to do to be able to make it into the postseason, then you'll be on a little bit of a high note. But it's not as if the Giants are on this run. Daniel Jones is looking great. The fighting Joe Judges are here to stay. It's not like that at all. Now, they got smacked around yesterday. So, I mean, that's the feeling that you have is like, do you really deserve it? But then again, if they go and beat the Cowboys, who looked really good yesterday, by the way, and Andy Dalton played one of the greatest games I've ever seen Andy Dalton play. But if they beat the Cowboys next week, then you're singing a different tune. But, I mean, I think the reason that some of the Giant fans, and a lot of them that I have seen after that game yesterday, knowing that they still have a chance to win the division and go to the playoffs, aren't excited about it, is because they were on the field yesterday with a team that's been up and down in the Ravens but is hitting their stride again, and they got their asses kicked. I mean, they were never really in the game. It was 27-6 in the start of the fourth quarter. I know that the Giants made a little bit of a comeback, but it didn't matter. So, I mean, yesterday was not a good indication that the Giants are anywhere near beating a good team.
No, I felt like, as Chris and I were discussing the last hour, I felt like the Giants have clearly taken a couple of steps back the last few weeks, and whether it's because they played Daniel Jones when he really wasn't ready or shouldn't have played a couple of weeks ago, whether it was yesterday, that game, as I said to Chris, the first series the Ravens go down and score, The Giants go 3-and-out, and part of that 3-and-out are back-to-back false starts where a 3rd and 7 turns into a, 3rd and 17 in a blink. Ravens go down and score again. Giants get the ball. They're 5-and-out when you got a receiver that can't catch a first down. An easy, for what should be an easy catch for a professional receiver, right in his chest. And you felt like at that point, it was over. And I agree. The Ravens have put teams like, the Cowboys a few weeks ago. They drilled them. And I don't think Cowboys' effort was very good in that game, but they looked every bit like the Ravens team we expected at the beginning of the year. And what we saw yesterday from Baltimore showed me they're just on a different level. But it's still in front of you. So Go out and get it done on Sunday.
Just a note on the Ravens, I was thinking, that might be a team to look ahead, betting a future of them getting to the Super Bowl, maybe even winning the Super Bowl, because it's a little bit different than last year for Kansas City. But remember that, Kansas City, the year before, the team that ended up hosting the AFC title game and getting that top seed and Patrick Mahomes being the MVP, that team ended up losing to the Patriots in the championship game. Now, the next year, they had lost some games. Patrick Mahomes missed a couple of games. They were a different team. And going into Week 17, they were not going to get a bye. And then things changed. The Dolphins beat the Patriots. A bunch of stuff changed. And then all of a sudden they got a bye. And that's when there were 2 byes. Obviously, this is the first year where there's only 1. But that's when I said at that point, I was like, that's a team that was quiet for a lot of the year. Yeah. But could the Ravens be in the same situation where, the year before they were a hell of a lot better. This year they've gone through hell and back, a bunch of adversity, playing their best football at the right time. Hell, the way that the Chiefs looked yesterday, they almost lost to the freaking Falcons if it wasn't for that missed kick by a guy who's missed 1 kick all year. Maybe that game.
39-yarder,
Yeah, I know. Younghoe Koo in the worst time possible for the Falcons, but the best time possible for the Chiefs, who misses that kick. Who knows? So that's a team to look at if you're one of these futures guys trying to figure that team out in a very odd year. The Ravens are playing great right now. Now, I know the knock on Lamar Jackson and the Ravens is they can't beat good teams, and they just sort of feed on the bad teams. But, hell, after watching yesterday, that's a pretty impressive effort again.
They had 250 yards rushing.
I know. Against the Giants' rush defense that's been very good this year.
Which makes no sense. It really, because defense travels, except that yesterday it didn't.
Yeah.
And they were defenseless for a lot of that game, or at least a lot of the first half in that game, which kind of set the tone for the day. But listen, 5-10, can you win the division at 6-10? Yeah, and it's not crazy either. You beat the Cowboys, and then I don't know what Washington is. I really don't. Dwayne Haskins, he did the Zoom conference yesterday, or the video conference with the media, I believe, from his home.
It was, yeah.
And he's basically talking about trying to get his life in order.
Well, if Alex Smith is healthy, so I ended up watching, because of fantasy purposes, I was watching this football game, a lot of it. And when Taylor Heineke came into the game, it was totally different. Now, I understand it was a blowout game, and the Panthers were took their foot off the gas pedal. But, it was a different option. And that's Taylor Heineke,
right,
for crying out loud. This isn't a guy who has a future. He's just a journeyman in mop-up duty generally, or, the third option on most teams. You had him getting benched in this game. You had him not talking to the media. So he ended up, the story with that was he blew off the media session that he was supposed to have after the game, and then ended up getting shamed into it, or told you better frickin' do it, and then ends up signing into a Zoom media session from his house. If Alex Smith is ending up healthy, then that's a different story. But Taylor Heineke for an entire game, I understand he was good yesterday when he came in, but for an entire game when a team knows that they're playing Taylor Heineke, they're not going to win. I'm sorry.
I wouldn't think so either.
Yeah.
And I also think, the Eagles, what they looked like yesterday was not what I expected at all. I really expect. Now, Dallas played well defensively. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. After Philadelphia got out to a 14-3 lead, I thought they were going to run away with that game, because the Cowboy defense has shown that when they have fallen behind this year, they haven't exactly fought back. Well, whatever happened from the first quarter to the second quarter yesterday, the switch was completely changed and switched, and they just played lights out the rest of the way for the most part. And defensively, the Eagles didn't do a whole lot either. Jalen Hurts gave you flashes yesterday, but didn't put together a complete game. I expect him to play well Sunday. The question I would have, though, is does the rest of the team play? And Doug Peterson might be coaching for his job, so it's a weird one. They've been eliminated. They're home. There's no crowd. Do the players even give a damn? And what the hell is Washington? And who's playing quarterback?
Yeah, that was an interesting game for sure yesterday. And now, Jalen Hurts, first of all, I don't know how they did not overturn that fumble.
I don't either.
So I guess the argument is that the ball started to move before his knee was down.
To me,
that's one of those I don't
barely
get. Now, they said the call stood, so it was confirmed, I believe.
But I don't understand how it's confirmed when we're getting
It wasn't confirmed.
We're getting the fumble was confirmed.
Well, I thought that they said that the call stands, though, which is different than it being confirmed.
Right, well, they called it a fumble on the field.
Right.
So they confirmed the call on the field.
Well, no, because there's two different things. This is where it gets dicey, right?
Okay.
So a call stands means that there's not enough evidence to overturn it.
Okay.
A call confirmed means that it absolutely was the right call, no two ways about it. So when they went and looked at it, because they called it a fumble on the field, they say we can't overturn it, so the call on the field stands. As opposed to the call is confirmed, which means we were right. Told you.
I don't know what we're looking at then.
Yeah, that's insane. Absolutely insane.
I really don't, because the ball, might it move? Okay, I can have complete control of a football. It can spin in my arms. It doesn't mean I'm fumbling the ball.
Yeah.
So if the ball spins slightly, my knee's down, play's over.
Yeah, to me, it's an absolute no-brainer.
And then there's even different, I don't know what the time lapse would be, but you're still going a couple of frames before the ball comes out.
Yeah.
Now, it doesn't mean they were going to win the game. Doesn't mean they were going to score, because you even saw at one point, was it the series prior or the series after where he threw the interception?
It was the series after.
So it doesn't mean they were going to come back and win.
Right.
But I'll tell you what, they go down and score, make it a 6-point game. There was still plenty of time left.
100%.
Game changes.
Yeah, it really did. That was the end at that point for the Philadelphia Eagles' chances. That was an interesting one. And by the way, the Cowboys, and you've watched every snap, and this pertains to what the Giants are going to get next week, but you just have no idea.
No clue who a team shows up.
Yeah, no idea.
Nope.
There are times when offensively they look like they've got the best weapons this side of the Kansas City Chiefs.
So there's the argument that if they get in, that they could, quote-unquote, make the run,
sure,
or at least win a game or two, who knows, because you've got weapons all over the field.
Michael Gallup yesterday is going off. Every wide receiver did.
CeeDee Lamb played well,
right,
even though he had one lazy play, but CeeDee Lamb played well. Amari Cooper played well. You mentioned Gallup, who was off the charts.
Even Zeke in the fourth quarter, that big run when you needed him.
He goes over 100 yards for just the second time this year. Blake Bell is making plays out of the tight end spot, a spot that's been, ravaged by injuries. The offensive line actually played well yesterday. Randy Gregory played defense like he was shot out of a cannon yesterday. DeMarcus Lawrence making plays. The secondary, who you can't even name half of them. Honestly, there are guys running around. I did the game a couple weeks ago in Cincinnati, and I remember preparing for the game, like, who are these guys?
Yeah.
And I'm on the broadcast every week. Yesterday it worked. And, I don't know how much of – see, it's hard to say. It's hard to make this argument because the Giants had that run where they played really well. But you had a new coach come in with a completely new defense with no offseason. None. Nothing. Zero zilch. And defensively, they have been a disaster all year until the last few weeks where they've started to create some turnovers and they've looked better. The problem is the Giants had that run where they looked like such a much more improving team. Well, Joe Judge wasn't here either all winter. So I'm not sure if it holds water or not, but they are playing their best football now. It's 3 in a row. Beat the Bengals at the time. You're like, nah, it's the Bengals. But look what they've done the last couple weeks.
It's a total toss-up.
I don't know.
This game in Week 17 is as much of a toss-up as I can imagine. Daniel Jones looked a little healthier in this game.
Sure.
So maybe he gets even more healthy for Week 17. He can run a little bit more. And who the hell knows with the Cowboys' defense? They're capable of giving up 45 points at any point, even though they have played a little bit better. But that's going to be a complete toss-up, and it's going to be fun. It will.
Like if I told you right now the Giants won Sunday afternoon 37-21, would you be surprised?
That score might surprise me because I think if the Giants win, it'll be something along the lines of they're not going to score more than 24 points.
But with the way, now granted the last couple of weeks not so much, but with the way the Cowboys have been gashed on the ground,
yeah.
If I told you Wayne Gallman ran for 130 yards Sunday and they, had the ball for 35 minutes, and I wouldn't be stunned, and I also wouldn't be stunned if the Cowboys beat them 42-7.
Sure. Well, I can see
idea.
I can see the Cowboys putting up a big number, even though the Giants' defense has been pretty good most of the year. But I can't. The Giants scoring more than 30 points to me seems almost impossible.
Thank you for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe. And don't forget to hit the red bell so you're notified when we have new content.